This conversation was sponsored by Komodo, a zero-knowledge, peer-to-peer atomic swap exchange. Learn more at komodoplatform.com. Let's talk a little bit about some of these internal crypto debates. You mentioned that Galactic Coin, your cryptocurrency sort of project, is going to be a Purecoin fork that uses proof of stake. How do you think about this proof of work versus proof of stake debate?
Because I was involved in BitGold back in the day, I've always been a big fan of it. And for a number of years, I always thought that proof of stake was just some socialist scheme to and but once I spent time and learned more about how it's a valid consensus method. I've actually kind of reached the belief that it may be actually more enforcing towards the establishment, because particularly networks that have large stake requirements, like Dash. Now I have to admit that I co-host Free Talk Live once a week, and Free Talk Live is sponsored by Dash. So Dash guys, please don't take it out on Free Talk Live that I'm saying this, but needing 1,000 Dash to be a masternode on the Dash network, when Dash is trading at $800 or whatever, that's a huge investment, and that's a huge barrier to people becoming Dash masternodes. And so you wind up creating a new aristocracy, a crypto aristocracy.
Yep.
And so, granted, people who are early adopters, who take early risks, should see a reward from that. But absolutely, should it be something where they're able to then, because of the growth of the network, because of the growth of the value of the coin, then exclude others from the upward mobility within that ecosystem? Mm-hmm. And so, should it be that hard to be a masternode operator?
Yeah. It's way too hard, and I agree with you. It's a very big barrier. I remember them talking about creating a sort of implementing a smaller sort of collateral requirements for that, so that more people can become masternodes. This has been talked about for a while. I'm not sure where that is in the development roadmap or what they're thinking about right now, and we'll have to see what they talk about in its first evolution fork, which is coming up this year. But yeah, it is, that's one of the common critiques of proof of stake systems, and Dash is a kind of proof of stake system. It's kind of a merged system where you have proof of work base layer and they have proof of stake for the masternode system. The critique is that it tends towards creating a kind of oligopoly or something like that.
Right.
Because there's a kind of rent seeking, right? It's kind of rent seeking thing where you have you have a piece of stake, nobody can take it from you, and you're collecting constantly more revenue, which you can keep adding to that stake.
Right.
I think that one of the counter arguments to that would be that to create an inflationary cryptocurrency with not with a predictable inflation, but that it's sort of it's not necessarily.
The gold bug in me. Oh,
I know, it hurts.
That has that's an idea, and there's other possible ways to go about it. I'm kind of blanking at the moment over some of the thoughts I've had about that. You could have fees to be masternodes. I was wondering a while back, it's like, why couldn't I submit an application to the Dash network for funds to become a masternode?
Shit.
And why not? And then it becomes a popularity contest. Do people like me enough to donate because they think I should be a masternode operator? Why not? And maybe that's something where people should be able to run to be elected to be masternode operators and have the stake put up by the people voting for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting because then you're heavily invested into it, and so you have skin in the game for the benefit of Dash, right? I mean, I think Dash from a kind of design perspective is really interesting. There's people that critique it from various angles, right? And there's certainly things you can critique about it. I don't.
And I really like the Dash network, and the guys, people have different opinions about the guys running it, but they've done a great job administering of it. And I love the system that the master node operators have for pooling funds every month to fund different projects, and whether it's charitable projects or marketing and promoting Dash, or investing in other startups, they've done some really fantastic things. One, as I mentioned, they sponsor Free Talk Live, which I co-host. They just voted essentially $2.7 million worth of Dash to fund Ben Swann's Truth and Media to come back on the air. That's which huge. Ben's a friend of mine. The guys on his team are friends of mine, and I was really disappointed when he was forced to take his sites off the air by CBS. And so I'm very happy that Dash has been able to step up the Dash network. You guys are awesome for doing that. Believe me, you'll have my gratitude forever. And I'm sure there's a lot of other libertarians that feel likewise, who are huge Ben Swann fans. And those are some of the great things that those sort of functions in the Dash network that I would encourage other crypto networks that should adopt, because you can still make a really good profit as a node operator, but still utilize your power in that network to do some really awesomely cool things, whether they're profitable for others, whether they're socially beneficial and have an impact outside of profit, beyond just promoting your network. So it's a fantastic mechanism that they have there for that, and I would like other cryptocurrencies to implement sort of things like that.
Yeah. I think it's pretty clear that they're having a noticeable and in many ways positive impact in society with that. They're doing a lot of charity and stuff. I think that's fantastic. Just so that people don't call me or us Dash chills, I'm going to point out, their anonymity is probably okay. It's probably not as good as Monero's,
and I know
it's probably not as good as Zcash's. Zcash, if everybody used C transactions all the time, Zcash would be better. But because it's not default, then I think Monero's has a pretty good case. Granted, Monero has like multiple input sort of ring signature strategy, so you can still do some. Well, there's people that think that you can still do some statistical analysis on that, whereas with Zcash, it's just a set-to-set sort of movement, and et cetera, et cetera. So
and Zencash is just there. That's another anonymity-based protocol that's really something that's going to make privacy a lot stronger. And it was interesting because the Zencash white paper specifically mentions voluntarism as a basis of their algorithm.
And it came out of Israel, right? Like some of the people are...
Some of them are from Israel. There's actually a guy in the Zencash team named Mike Lorrey, and our names are one... He has one R in his last name, and I have two.
Wow.
And people have confused us in the past. So we're different people. We're both super cool. but yeah. So... just a lot of great crypto projects doing all sorts of things, like for privacy, for building the community and so forth. And it's great to see all that.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know what's special about Zencash? Isn't it also a copy of Zcash? Like Komodo's a copy of Zcash.
It's derived from Zcash, but it's like this provable anonymity that they're really building in there, and it's I haven't really delved into the protocol that much, but it's from others that I've talked to, they've been really impressed with the work that they're doing over there.
Cool. Well, I was doing some consulting for somebody, helping them set up like a Zencash wallet, and I became somewhat disappointed with their wallet because you can't encrypt their wallet.dat file on the core client for Windows. Which to me is like, holy moly, like that is just retarded.
That seems like a major oversight, kind of like that that
And they acknowledge that it's a bug that they haven't fixed. Like,
well, yeah,
wow.
and hopefully, the Trezor wallet had a similar bug last fall, where essentially if you took the wallet and you sprayed it with Freon to freeze it, then you could do a dump of the flash and get a plain text file of the 12 words and your balances and it was just. And
wow.
they did a firmware update that fixed those weaknesses, but it was interesting that there was that kind of a weakness, and it wasn't really to do with the Trezor itself, but the particular chip that they used in it wasn't allowing for encrypted data within the chip. Mm-hmm. So, right. It was encrypted as it was coming out. So
interesting.
But it's fixed now, and Trezor's the Trezor and the Ledger are my two favorite hardware wallets.
Yeah, same for me. Ledger Nano S and Trezor. Shout out to Satoshka. She's the co-founder.
You'll have to introduce me to her. I hear she's a really cool chick. So.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, and Ledger Nano S has they're doing some really good work as well. Looking forward to testing the Ledger Blue whenever it comes out. I hear it hasn't been released yet.
Send me one.
Yeah. We'll do a review. All right, so taking it back, do you have any more comments of proof of stake versus proof of work, the oligopoly problem?
I think that as long as people are focused on making sure the network is as decentralized as possible, have a lot of nodes, have a lot of master nodes. Mm-hmm. Having a small number of master nodes tends towards centralization. Mm-hmm. So you should want to have as many as possible.
So lower the barrier to entry, basically, so you can get a stake, right?
Yeah. And part of the reason for large stakes was to really protect your network against being taken over by more profit-seeking bad actors. But it's if anybody with enough money can come in and do that. Mm-hmm. So it's if your real enemy is the banking system, they're the biggest ones that could come in and buy up a network and corrupt it. So
yeah, one of the funny things though about that is that in proof of stake, so the Fed prints $10 trillion and goes and buys a proof of stake currency. The price is gonna go to the fucking moon. Everybody's gonna be rich, right? Everybody else sells, and then it'll crash. Yeah, because everybody's gonna dump on them and then go fork it and build a new one. It's like, all right, right. So there's some resistance to that, which is pretty cool in proof of stake systems. Whereas in proof of work, you can just go buy a ridiculous amount of mining hardware. Of course, you have to go manufacture it, which is not a simple thing.
Right.
And there is certainly, there's limitations in how much of that is being produced. Clearly, I mean, as prices go up and stuff. But I don't know. That's always seemed to me kind of like one of those.
Well, I always wondered why. I've always heard these stories going back to the 90s, how the NSA had football-sized buildings underground filled with servers cracking cryptography. It's like, why aren't they using that on Bitcoin?
I know. Yeah. It's like people that talk about how well, and by the way, like if the Fed did invest a bunch of money on ASICs, right, then they would be heavily invested in the success of Bitcoin, which is interesting, right? Because if we just fork away from their algorithm, they're fucked. They just lost a ton of money.
And a lot of people have conspiracy theories about this whole thing, and I've talked to people who have actually dealt with FBI people who that will talk in public saying we need to regulate cryptocurrency, we need to ban blah blah blah, but then you talk to them in private and they're like, we love blockchain because we can track every transaction everywhere. So it's like they talk about, it's a great currency for drug dealers in public. They'll tell people that. Then in private, we want the drug dealers to use it. So then when we arrest the guy on the corner and grab his phone, then we can basically offer him a plea deal to give us the password to his wallet. Then we can trace every transaction up through the whole supply chain and get the kingpins, and then go out from the kingpins to all the other distributors. So really, if the feds really wanted to, they could utilize crypto to really go aggressively against the drug cartels to shut down illegal drugs if they wanted to.
Of course, according to conspiracy theories, they would end up busting the CIA anyways. So
and Pfizer, thank you.
Right, they would end up at the big pharma. So yeah, give it a shot. You might pass me the bottle of Sure. That's hilarious. All right, and is Galacticoin going to have like a masternode sort of topology, or is it proof of stake?
We're working on that. That's a project we're working on. Peercoin wasn't designed to have a masternode topology, but we're trying to build that in because we want to utilize that sort of structure to encourage platform operators to buy into it. They'll see that they can profit from the system as well. And so we really don't want to wind up in a big battle with all of these different platforms. We want to evolve the community. We want teaching them that this technology is showing them how the network effects make their own companies more valuable as a result than maintaining the walls around their networks.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think you can bring the pretty good deal to them, as we discussed.
And so by having sensors all along that, those are all addressable IP objects in the Internet of Things.
We humans, and we mortal humans in the Dash community are basically helping the gears that move it, that we can fall away and this thing will continue.
Look at the gold market. You'd have to look at how many ounces of gold are being pulled out of the ground each month, not just how much gold is being.